There is no maximum horizontal distance that an outlet box must be placed away from a wall according to the National Electrical Code, or NEC. The NEC primarily focuses on the secure mounting of electrical boxes. Specifically, electrical boxes must be securely fastened to a stud, joist, or other approved support. The code emphasizes the mechanical integrity and support of the box rather than its specific distance from a wall surface. However, it's important to recognize that the NEC provides a foundational standard, and local jurisdictions often introduce amendments or additional requirements to address regional or municipal needs. These local building codes may indeed impose restrictions on the placement of outlet boxes relative to walls, windows, doors, or other architectural features. These additional rules often stem from concerns about accessibility, aesthetics, or specific construction practices prevalent in that area. For instance, a local code might dictate a minimum or maximum distance an outlet box can be positioned from a window frame to prevent water intrusion or to maintain a consistent visual appearance. Similarly, restrictions might exist regarding the proximity of outlets to doorways to ensure ease of access and prevent obstruction. Given the potential for these local variations, it is imperative to consult the local building department or electrical inspector before commencing any electrical work. They can provide definitive guidance on any specific requirements applicable in the area. This proactive approach ensures compliance with all relevant codes and regulations, avoiding potential rework or fines later in the project. The NEC outlines general requirements for the installation of electrical boxes and wiring, with Article 314 covering outlet, device, pole, and junction boxes, conduit bodies, fittings, and handheld enclosures. These boxes and enclosures are essential components of the electrical system, providing a safe and accessible location for connecting wires, installing devices such as receptacles and switches, and protecting wiring from physical damage. Article 314.16 details the volume allowance required within boxes. This section is crucial for ensuring that there is sufficient space inside the box for the conductors, devices, and any necessary connectors without overcrowding. Overcrowding can lead to overheating, insulation damage, and potential electrical hazards. The volume allowance is based on the size and number of conductors entering the box, as well as the presence of any devices or equipment installed within the box. The NEC specifies minimum box dimensions and fill requirements to prevent these issues. Article 314.17 addresses the entry of cables into boxes, conduit bodies, or fittings. This section mandates that cables must be protected from abrasion during and after installation. Cable clamps, connectors, or other approved methods must be used to secure the cables to the box and prevent them from being pulled out or damaged. Proper cable entry also helps maintain the integrity of the box and prevent the entry of moisture or contaminants. Article 314.20 focuses on the flush mounting of boxes. When boxes are mounted in walls or ceilings, they must be flush with the finished surface or project therefrom within specified limits. This requirement ensures that devices such as receptacles and switches can be properly installed and that the box is securely supported. The NEC provides guidelines for achieving a flush mount, including the use of plaster rings, extension rings, or other approved methods. Article 314.23 outlines the various methods for supporting boxes. Boxes must be securely supported to prevent them from moving or falling out of the wall or ceiling. The NEC specifies several acceptable support methods, including fastening to studs, joists, or other structural members using metal or plastic brackets, or suspending from wires or cables. The choice of support method depends on the type of box, the location, and the weight of the equipment it will support. Article 314.27 covers the mounting of boxes specifically designed for ceiling suspended fans. These boxes must be listed and labeled for fan support and must be capable of supporting the weight and dynamic loads imposed by the fan. The NEC specifies the requirements for box construction, mounting, and wiring to ensure the safe and reliable operation of ceiling fans. Article 314.28 addresses pull and junction boxes for use in conduit systems. These boxes are used to provide access to conductors for pulling, splicing, or making connections. The NEC specifies the minimum size and dimensions of pull and junction boxes based on the size and number of conduits entering the box. These requirements ensure that there is sufficient space for conductors to be installed and maintained without overcrowding or damage. In addition to these specific articles, the NEC also includes general requirements for the installation of electrical equipment, including boxes. These requirements cover topics such as grounding, bonding, overcurrent protection, and wiring methods. Compliance with these general requirements is essential for ensuring the safety and reliability of the electrical system. Regarding horizontal placement, while the NEC doesn't specify a maximum distance from a wall, it is best practice to consider factors such as accessibility, aesthetics, and the intended use of the space when determining the placement of outlet boxes. For example, in kitchens, receptacles are typically placed above countertops to provide convenient access for appliances. In living rooms, receptacles may be placed near the floor to minimize their visual impact. The placement of outlet boxes should also comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA, which requires that receptacles be accessible to people with disabilities. The ADA specifies the maximum height and reach requirements for receptacles and accessible spaces. In addition to the NEC and local building codes, other standards and guidelines may also apply to the placement of outlet boxes. For example, the National Electrical Manufacturers Association, or NEMA, publishes standards for electrical enclosures, including outlet boxes. These standards provide guidance on the construction, performance, and testing of outlet boxes. The Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, or IEE, also publishes standards related to electrical safety and installation practices. These standards may include recommendations for the placement of outlet boxes to minimize the risk of electrical shock or fire. The authority having jurisdiction, or OJ, is responsible for enforcing the NEC and other applicable codes and standards. The AHJ may be a local building inspector, electrical inspector, or other qualified professional. The AHJ has the authority to interpret the code and to approve or disapprove electrical installations. It is essential to consult with the AHJ before commencing any electrical work to ensure compliance with all applicable requirements. In summary, while the NEC does not specify a maximum horizontal distance for outlet box placement from a wall, local building codes may have specific requirements. It is always best to check with the local building department to determine if there are any specific requirements for the placement of outlet boxes in your area. Additionally, consider factors such as accessibility, aesthetics, and the intended use of the space when determining the placement of outlet boxes. Compliance with the NEC, local building codes, and other applicable standards and guidelines is essential for ensuring the safety and reliability of the electrical system. Securely fastening the electrical box is vital for several reasons. Firstly, a securely fastened box ensures the mechanical integrity of the electrical connection. The electrical connections within the box, whether they are wire splices, terminations at receptacles, or connections to other devices, rely on stable and secure contact to function properly. If the box is not securely fastened, vibrations or movement can cause these connections to loosen or break, leading to intermittent power outages, equipment malfunction, or even electrical hazards such as arcing or short circuits. Secondly, a securely fastened box provides physical protection for the electrical connections and devices housed within it. The box acts as a barrier against dust, moisture, and physical damage, protecting the wiring and components from environmental factors that could degrade their performance or create safety hazards. If the box is not securely fastened, it may not provide adequate protection, increasing the risk of damage or failure. Thirdly, a securely fastened box helps maintain the grounding continuity of the electrical system. Grounding is a critical safety feature that provides a low-resistance path for fault currents to flow back to the source, tripping a circuit breaker or fuse and preventing electrical shock. The electrical box is typically connected to the grounding system, and if the box is not securely fastened, the grounding connection may be compromised, reducing the effectiveness of the grounding system and increasing the risk of electrical shock. Fourthly, a securely fastened box ensures compliance with electrical codes and regulations. Electrical codes such as the NEC mandate that electrical boxes be securely fastened to provide a safe and reliable electrical installation. Failure to comply with these codes can result in fines, penalties, or rejection of the installation. Therefore, securely fastening electrical boxes is not only a matter of best practice but also a legal requirement. The NEC provides specific guidelines for supporting electrical boxes, depending on the type of box, the location, and the weight of the equipment it will support. For example, boxes mounted in walls or ceilings are typically fastened to studs, joists, or other structural members using screws, nails, or other approved fasteners. Boxes suspended from wires or cables must be supported by appropriate hardware and must be capable of supporting the weight of the box and its contents. The NEC also specifies the minimum number and size of fasteners required for supporting electrical boxes. In addition to the NEC requirements, local building codes may also have specific requirements for supporting electrical boxes. These requirements may vary depending on the jurisdiction and the type of construction. Therefore, it is essential to consult with a local building department or electrical inspector to determine if there are any specific requirements applicable in the area. Improperly supported electrical boxes can pose several safety hazards. Firstly, they can create a risk of electrical shock. If the box is not securely fastened, it may come loose and expose live electrical wires or connections. This can create a direct electrical shock hazard for anyone who comes into contact with the box or its contents. Secondly, improperly supported boxes can increase the risk of fire. Loose or damaged wiring can create arcing or short circuits, which can generate heat and ignite nearby combustible materials. This can lead to a fire that can spread quickly and cause significant damage. Thirdly, improperly supported boxes can create a trip hazard. Loose or sagging boxes can obstruct walkways or create uneven surfaces, increasing the risk of trips and falls. This is especially a concern in areas with high foot traffic or where people may be carrying objects. Fourthly, improperly supported boxes can damage the electrical system. Loose or vibrating boxes can cause wear and tear on the wiring and connections, leading to premature failure of electrical components. This can result in costly repairs and downtime. Therefore, it is crucial to ensure that electrical boxes are properly supported to prevent these safety hazards and maintain the integrity of the electrical system. To ensure that electrical boxes are securely fastened, it is essential to follow best practices for installation. Firstly, use the appropriate fasteners for the type of box and the supporting structure. Screws, nails, or other approved fasteners should be used to attach the box to studs, joists, or other structural members. The fasteners should be long enough to penetrate the supporting structure sufficiently and should be strong enough to support the weight of the box and its contents. Secondly, ensure that the supporting structure is sound and capable of supporting the weight of the box. Weak or damaged studs, joists, or other structural members should be repaired or replaced before installing the box. If the supporting structure is not strong enough, the box may come loose or fall out over time. Thirdly, use appropriate hardware for suspending boxes from wires or cables. Suspension hardware should be listed and labeled for the intended use and should be capable of supporting the weight of the box and its contents. The wires or cables used for suspension should be properly sized and secured to prevent sagging or failure. Fourthly, inspect the installation after completion to ensure that the box is securely fastened and that there are no loose or damaged components. Check the fasteners to ensure that they are tight and that the box is not moving or vibrating. If any problems are detected, correct them immediately. In addition to these installation best practices, it is also essential to perform regular maintenance on electrical boxes to ensure that they remain securely fastened over time. This includes inspecting the boxes periodically for signs of damage or wear, tightening loose fasteners, and replacing any damaged components. Regular maintenance can help prevent problems from developing and ensure that the electrical system remains safe and reliable. Regarding the placement of outlet boxes horizontally, several practical considerations come into play, even though the NEC does not mandate specific distances from walls. The positioning of outlets should align with the intended use of the space and the placement of furniture or appliances. For instance, in a living room, outlets are often placed near the floor, spaced appropriately to accommodate lamps, entertainment systems, and other electronic devices. The goal is to provide convenient access to power without creating a cluttered or unsightly appearance. In kitchens, outlets are typically installed above countertops, spaced to serve small appliances such as toasters, blenders, and coffee makers. The height and spacing are designed to minimize the need for extension cords and to keep countertops clear. In bedrooms, outlets are often placed near nightstands to provide power for lamps, alarm clocks, and mobile device chargers. The placement should be convenient for occupants while also minimizing the visibility of cords. In bathrooms, the placement of outlets is subject to specific NEC requirements due to the presence of water. Outlets must be ground fault circuit interrupter, or GFCI, protected and must be located at least a certain distance from bathtubs, showers, and sinks. The goal is to prevent electrical shock hazards. In commercial spaces, the placement of outlets should consider the needs of the occupants and the types of equipment that will be used. Outlets should be spaced appropriately to provide adequate power for computers, printers, and other office equipment. The placement should also comply with the ADA requirements for accessibility. The number of outlets required in a space is also an important consideration. The NEC specifies minimum requirements for the number of outlets in dwelling units based on the size and type of room. These requirements are intended to ensure that occupants have access to adequate power without having to rely on extension cords. The NEC also specifies requirements for the spacing of outlets along walls. In general, outlets should be spaced no more than 12 feet apart, so that no point along the wall is more than 6 feet from an outlet. This requirement ensures that occupants can easily access power without having to stretch extension cords across the room. In addition to the NEC requirements, local building codes may also have specific requirements for the number and spacing of outlets. These requirements may vary depending on the jurisdiction and the type of building. Therefore, it is essential to consult with the local building department or electrical inspector to determine if there are any specific requirements applicable in the area. In conclusion, while the NEC does not specify a maximum horizontal distance for outlet box placement from a wall, it is essential to consider practical considerations such as accessibility, aesthetics, and the intended use of the space. The placement of outlets should align with the placement of furniture and appliances and should comply with the NEC requirements for spacing and GFCI protection. Additionally, local building codes may have specific requirements for the number and spacing of outlets. Therefore, it is always best to check with the local building department to determine if there are any specific requirements for the placement of outlet boxes in your area. Securely fastening the electrical box and proper placement are both crucial aspects of a safe and functional electrical installation.